Hey everyone, Sergei here from ukramedia.com. Thank you all of you, primarily on the northern western side of the world. I know we're kind of late today, but we wanted to try something new. We want to go live at 7 p.m. instead of what is it, like 2, 3, or 1 o'clock that we usually go live. So welcome. Some of the names I put up here, as you can see, some of the awesome people. Hold on a second. My audio is going off. 1 second. All right, make sure that you guys don't hear it. Welcome. We're going to talk about some scripts or how to create scripts or write them in After Effects. It's going to be exciting. And by that, I mean, it might be boring to some of you, but that's okay. You'll learn a lot about scripting, how awesome they are, and just in general, how useful scripting can be. And I know a lot of you are probably like me, scared of scripting. Anytime you say coding, you're going to be scared of that, but that's okay. Hopefully tonight, I'll get rid of that fear for you. All right, but I'm going to wait a couple of minutes for everyone to arrive. Again, Ricardo, all of you guys, welcome, whose name I cannot pronounce. Felix, let me put some other names in here. This is just my way of saying, hey, I noticed you. Let's see who else is here. We have a lot of Artyom, a lot of different people. This is exciting. All right, I'm going to wait one more minute and then we're going to dive in because you don't want to miss, it's coding. Once you miss a little bit, it's hard to catch up. From Mexico, awesome. We have Felix, cheers. Dwayne, I think Dwayne is from North Carolina somewhere. I can't remember where. Ramesh, I can't pronounce half the names. I'm sorry. I have this stuff that's blocking my view, so some things I can't see very, very well. Ahmed, Andres, or Andre, Dirk. I probably shouldn't even attempt some of the names, but Ricardo, welcome all of you guys. But anyway, I'm about to begin, I promise you. So again, thank you so much for tuning in. And by the way, just for tuning in, I'm gonna keep the names up. I just want to give you a promo code. In fact, let me do that right now so I don't forget. For those of you as a reward, we reward loyalty. So here you go. If you guys want to go to ukramedia.com/ I think it's shop or something like that, you'll get $10. We do have a script that's $10 or it's $9. So you'll get it for free if you want it. So it's just our way of telling you thank you. And at the end, Vladimir's right here next to me. We're going to give away something, right? That's right. We're going to give away a promo code, which will give 50% off to our expression scores to 10 people.
First 10 people.
First 10 people, or something like that. We've never done this before, but we want to, you have to stick to the end. But we want to encourage, or we want to thank you guys for coming in late. I know a lot of you are coming home from work and all of that stuff. So anyway, all right, let's dive in. I think everybody's here. We're good. Everyone can hear me. I'm assuming by this point you can. Jorge, Miami, Florida. Awesome. Austria, not Australia. Awesome. Dennis from Brazil, or Denise, I'm sorry. Seattle, India. Wilmington. I knew it was North Carolina somewhere. Wilmington. That's not too far from us. We're in Charlotte, North Carolina. All right. Okay, guys. So let's talk about something. 1 second. Oh, Vladimir just pointed out that I used the old graphic. Ignore the date. And let me switch transition. All right, here we go. All right, now that we have, you can see my screen. Last time I forgot to switch, and a lot of you didn't see my screen. So let's talk about coding for a second. And just to kind of encourage you a little bit, I'm not a coder myself. I'm a motion graphics designer. That's what I did. I was a senior motion graphics designer at Fox Sports, worked on a lot of cool stuff. And coding is not my thing. I was terrible in school. I was so terrible that I barely passed, middle school, high school, all of that. So I'm not the best at math. I am not, so that doesn't qualify me very well. I'm not speaking very highly of myself right now, but I just want to encourage you that, hey, you don't need to be great at math. You don't need to be super knowledgeable. And on top of all of that, what I just said, by the way, I was so terrible at school. The reason why they passed me was because I was a good soccer player, and teachers were like, hey, we need to have him on a team, so let's pass him. And that's how I passed high school. And anyway, so to encourage you, I am not super great at math and all of that jazz, but I still got it. So I understand expressions, I understand coding. And so what I'm trying to say, you don't have to be smart. You don't have to be super great at math and all of that stuff. You just need to know the basics. It's like any language. I'm going to show you basically intro to JavaScript and then ExtendScript. And that's just basically another language. it's a language that we speak with computer. Like, we have to understand how to communicate. So don't look at it as math. I mean, math is involved for sure, but that's not all that you'll be doing. It's just a language. A lot of you are foreigners in here, so you know what it's like to speak English right now. A lot of you didn't speak English at first, so it should be easy. We have a lot of people coming in. I wish I could read a bunch of names. I can't pronounce it. So I'm going to talk about JavaScript. In fact, it's going to be kind of unscripted, but I do have a little outline that I want to kind of go over here. So we're going to be using ExtendScript, which is something that's included in Creative Cloud. If you have Creative Cloud, just go to, I believe, apps, and then like at the very bottom, at least for me, now it might be different for you, you have ExtendScript Toolkit. Make sure you download it. That's what we're going to be using. And After Effects and ExtendScript. And then I'll show you some other resources. So the goal of this live session is basically to kind of introduce you to coding and scripting in After Effects. But the goal is this. Not to overwhelm me, because I'll be honest with you, when I tried to learn expressions, and by the way, I did not know scripting 2 years ago when I quit Fox Sports. I didn't know scripting at all. I knew expressions, but not very well. And when I quit, I just dove right into it. I realized, hey, I have 2 months of savings. I need to create some kind of products, so that I can feed my family, because I had this goal that I wanted to do. And so I wrote my first script called Control It, or I think it was Control It, and then Smart React was my second one. But I learned it along the way as I was like creating this script. So just to encourage you, I'm not a veteran in this field, so it's fairly new to me as well, and I got it. So you don't have to have years of experience. You just need to know the basics. Just like driving a car. You don't need to know every single detail about a car to drive one. You just need to know where the gas is, where the steering wheel, where the brake, and how to switch gears or something like that, And then the rest, as you go on journeys, you figure out how to, change the tire, how to do everything else, right? Windshield wipers, that'd be nice to know. So I'm just saying, but the basics is what you need to know, the things that can get you rolling. And then as you go on this journey of learning coding and stuff, you will learn more. But if you know the basics, you can attach it. It's like the skeleton. You can attach the meat as you go. So I hope this will help you guys. Wow. Thank you. Okay. All right. So let's get started with JavaScript. And by the way, I go over all of this stuff in our expressions course, but I'm going to do it super fast. And obviously, if you want to learn more, you should definitely go to ucrmedia.com/expressions. Check out our course, and you'll learn more about in-depth JavaScript and then expressions. And scripting is something that's not included in the course. Scripting is something I'm talking to you right now. All right, JavaScript. What is JavaScript? And I'm not a coder. And when I was learning this, a lot of people that were teaching me this were like math nerds, and they spoke their math language that put me to sleep back in high school. I'm not a math guy. When I heard someone say, literals and all that stuff, dude, that was like a lullaby for me. I was going to bed. I was checked out. I was thinking, should I have ice cream or pretzels? I was checked out. In fact, till this day, when I do presentations on expressions, I can see people just like zoning out. So forget it. Like, it's not that hard. It's just because they were using this big language, big words, and it made it more complicated than it is. So JavaScript is just an object-oriented programming language. It's just a language that we talk to computer, but it's oriented around object. Now, what does that mean around object? Well, it's pretty simple. So we have an object-oriented language, and then we have procedural. So object has to do with an object. For example, I have a fist. So I determine this is a fist, right? Here's a fist. And then I tell it to do something. And then I say punch, and then I punch, right? So the first thing I determine is an object, right? Fist. And then I tell it to do something, and I apply some kind of action. So it's first object and then action, right? Well, in a procedural programming language, which is not what we're going to be talking about, it's the opposite. First, you create an action. You say punch, and then or kick or something, and then you attach it to an object, right? And then basically it's just backwards. It's a little different approach. So because JavaScript is an object-oriented language, the first thing we always determine is an object. And it can be a layer, it can be a position property, it can be anything. So that's what we're going to talk about. So what does that mean? So for example, I'm going to show you here in a second. Make sure you guys are on. Everyone's good, right? You're still with me. I haven't lost you guys talking about talking about coding. All right. Violence. Okay. So because it is object-oriented, the first thing we're dealing with, we have to determine a thing before we have to let it do something. So for example, I say layer, and then I apply or like a layer property and then rotation. So I determine my target, let's say rotation property, and then I tell it to wiggle. So the first thing is object, and then we wiggle. But just like any objects have properties. So for example, we type something like let's say a ball. A ball is an object, but then it has properties. It's it's blue. Color is blue, right? And then weight, it weighs so much. And so object properties, right? And then properties have values. So for example, object, we have properties, and properties have values, right? So we determine the thing, and then we tell it to do something. A lot of times it's written like the action portion of it is called method. And then once we determine the object, like this, we got the value, that's like an object. This whole thing is just object. It's a thing, right? We determine a thing, and then we say action, or it's the same thing as method. And methods are written with parentheses like this. So then we would say some kind of action. So let me show you an example with scripting. So with scripting, you want to make sure that you are in After Effects. And I'm going to create, here's an After Effects. I'm going to create a new composition, just any composition. So I'm going to write a path to that composition. So I'm going to write, I'm going to go more in depth here in a second, but I know it basically says app, then project, and then we're going to say item, and we're going to say 1, and I'm going to tell it to, let's say, remove. As you can see, it got rid of it, right? So that was an object. We determined item 1 would be a composition, right? Whatever that was in here, right? And then I applied action, remove. So I started with a path. I started with a thing, an object, and then I told it to do something. The cool thing about it is when you duplicate this, action goes with it, right? So I just want to drive this home that it has to do with object, and then we determine, object can be a property, can be a value, basically a thing, and then we tell it to do something. So this is like a quick intro to JavaScript of like the overall without me going into too much detail. Now, so object properties, now properties have values. For example, rotation has a value, right? It has a value that's a number, right? Like a layer, or layer, let's do, and by the way, like layer name, that would be a text, what we call string, right? So it's a double quoted string. So like it's a property, but it has a value. And the value can have 5 different data types. It can be different data types. It can be, again, a var is to create a variable. I'm going to say something like number value, right? So it's a number. It can be a number. Then I'm going to say string value. Yeah. I want to make it a method. String is a double quoted, right? It's just a string. It can be any text, right? A string, when someone says, that's something else like threw me off when I was first learning coding. It's like, what the heck is a string? A string is just a string of characters. Think of it like a string and a bunch of characters. That's what they call it. Basically, it's text. And the reason why you put them in double quotes or single quotes, it doesn't matter, double or single will work. And basically, it's our way of telling JavaScript, hey, whatever we type in double quotes, that is just a text. It's not a code. It's not anything like a keyword. It doesn't trigger anything. Just see it as a text and ignore it, right? I'm going to keep it double quotes. All right, so we have 2 so far. We've gone over 2 data types. We have number, string. Then we have an array. And I'm just creating a variable. Variable just made up, right, text. I'm going to say array value, and it's usually written in square brackets. So if you see square brackets, that means it's an array, right? Square brackets array. An array is just a one value, but it has multiple lists of things. It can be numbers, right? It can be a string. It can also be an array, right? It can be any of those. And again, it can be 11, 22. Let me zoom out a little bit. All right. So far we have 3 different data types. Then the 4th one would be, Boolean. I'm going to say var Boolean. and let's do value, and that's going to be Boolean is just true or false, right? It's true or false. Oops, false. That's all that is, true or false. So it's either 0 or 1. And then we have the fourth one, or the fifth one, is an object. Now that one you probably won't use that much. Well, I'm just going to say object value. An object is written in curly brackets. And basically it's the same thing as like a square bracket, but the thing about it, square bracket only has a value. Now an object has the name of the property and the value. So I can come up with, like, make up something like name, and it can be a string, right? I'm going to say, let's use one of you guys in here. Let's see, I'm going to use this name. I'm going to copy it from here and in here. Okay, so name, then I'm going to say color. Let's do blue. So again, if I'm typing a text, you want to put it in double quotes. You want to make sure that it's a text. You don't want it to be a keyword or anything like that. And then let's use just a number. I'm going to say age. Let's do 22. Okay, so we went over 5 different data types. We have a number, right? It can be a number. We're used to numbers, rotation, position, or rotation, opacity. That's a number. That's a one-dimensional number, right? Then we have a string, which is just a text. Think of it as just a regular text. And then we have array. We're used to array, like a position has a 2-value array, like two-dimensional. So it's just an array. And then we have Boolean, true or false, and object, which similar to an array, but it has value, or it has the name of the value and then the value itself. Okay, so let's keep going with this. I'm going to build up on this. So we also have alert. And basically in ExtendScript, whatever let me go back to Toolkit. Whatever you type inside of this alert, let's say I'm going to say hi. And when I run the script by clicking on this button, watch this, it's going to say script alert hi. Okay. Well, we can test things in here. I can say, hey, what happens if I alert this variable right here? Again, to set a variable, again, you put var in front of it. And then once you've set a variable, then you can use it without putting var. Var is only for when you first create it. Okay, so it should tell me 11, right? I'm asking for the value of this property, which is just a variable. So when I run it, you can see it tells me 11. So let's try this one. As you can see, string, it's working. Now watch what happens if I call up this array. If I call it up, you can see it gives me this huge list. Now, what if I want to call up only this 33? Like if I call this array, it gives me the whole list. But what if I want to access 33? How would I do that? Well, to do that, just remember, arrays are written with square brackets, open and close square brackets. To do that, you access, because we don't have the name of this value, right? We can't just say, this name and then 11 will pop up like this one right here. Well, we have to point to an index value. So index meaning where is it at? So it starts over here. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. It's just a value where it's at in this line. It starts with 0 in square brackets. Index starts with 0. So just remember, I know it's kind of bizarre, but it starts with 0. So if I want to get this value, I would just say right here at the end of this variable, right? I would do open and close square bracket. And in here I would say, hey, give me the index number 0, 1, 2. So that would be 2, right? So in here I would type 2. And when I would play it, it would give me 33. So that's how you access arrays. Now, arrays can have arrays within an array, and then it keep going. So for example, this thing right here is an array. So if I go 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, if I call up that one, watch what happens. So as you can see, it gives me 2 of them, which is great. But what if I want just the 22 here? How would I access that? Well, I hope you're catching on so far. So what you do, just add another square brackets right here and just say, hey, we want this value, but then we want that one. So it's 0, 1. So it kind of starts over. So if I type 1, it should give me 22. So if I play this, it gives me 22. So that's how we access arrays. Now, a lot of people get confused with that within like After Effects, right? For example, if I do new, let's do text. So let's say position in here, or hit P. Sorry, it's so hard to see because it's blocking my monitor or my keyboards. So as you can see, we have 2 values in position. Well, that's an array. I mean, just imagine that there's square brackets in front of it. So if you, let's say from opacity, you want to get this value. Well, that would make sense. Let's make it something smaller, like 20, so we can see it in here, because opacity only goes to 100, right? So notice if I pick whip to this property right here, to this one right here, notice it's calling up the 0 one. It's the index 0, right? It wrote a path to it, so it wants this index 0. Like, does that make sense? That's how we access things. If I wanted this value, I would just say, remember, 0, 1, right? It's the same concept. So that's what I was saying. Like, if you know the basics, it's just repetitive throughout. So when you click away, you can see it gives me, well, let's make it 10. It should give me 10. There you go, 10. So I hope that's making sense. You're on the Mac. Let me kind of switch back to the chat. Make sure you guys are paying attention. Position is an array. All right. Is anyone? No. Okay. People are not finding the ExtendScript. There's a link at the bottom of this video. Click on that. You should find, there should be a list. At the bottom of it, you should find it. All right. Everyone's okay. Duplication is a value. Okay. Okay. I'm going to keep going here because I can get lost with these comments. All right. But you guys are okay so far? Everyone's good? All right. I'm going to keep going. So we talked about arrays. Now let's talk about Boolean for a second. Now, Boolean has to do with true or false. Like, it just gives you, it's the same thing. It's just a keyword for a number. For example, if I use a method called number, if I type true, and if I alert it, I should have done this, my bad, alert, let's see what it would give me. So it would say, hey, what true is actually a number, and if I run this, it will tell me what number it is. It's actually 1. It's the same thing as 1. Or let's do false. It's 0. So again, false is 0, true is 1. But if you want to be more colorful with your words, you might want to use true or false. But you can get away with 1 or 0. All right. So that's what Boolean is. And you would use it in if-else statement. You can say if, let's say, I'm going to create a variable in here. I'm going to call it A. Just variable A, you're going to be, let's do 3. All right. And then I'm going to do if-else statement. I'm going to say if A equals, by the way, double equals is actually equals in JavaScript because we use equals single one to set a variable, right? So you can't use it again. So we use double equals to, it actually means equals. Okay, so I'm going to say if A equals to 3, right? I want for it to alert, I'm going to say alert, we're just going to say 3. And then I'm going to say if it's not 3, else, I'm going to tell to, let's do alert, and I'll say something like not 3, not the mama. All right. Then, so right now A is 3. So when I run this, it says it's 3 because this condition right here is true and it went to the first statement. But if I change this to 1, anything other than 3, then it would do this. Well, I was going to somehow connect this to true and false. Okay. Well, we use that usually with checkbox. You know, you can say like if A is true, like if checkbox is true, if it's checked, right? Then you can say true, then go over here and say and tell us that it's true, right? And it's the same concept, true. And if it's false, we basically we use that with checkbox. You know, that's our something that's on off. That's what true or false Boolean means. On or off. Anyway, clear as mud. I hope you guys are keeping up. All right, and the last data type that I want to talk to you quickly about. And by the way, all of that I go over in better detail in our course, but we're live, we're doing it, and that's what we're getting right now. But the last one is object value. Basically, it's an object. Now, the way we access an object is pretty simple. We just say object value. Let me just copy this. And then make sure we put alert because we want to see what we're typing here. All right, so if we alert this, let's see what happens. It just tells me it's an object. Well, that's great. But then if we want to access the name, I would just say period name. And then it would tell me the name. Or if I wanted to get the color, I would say color, right? And then it would give me the color. Now, that's one way to do it. You can also do square brackets for this if you want to call up, if you want to type it in, like if you want to type it in like this, name, if you want to type in your property, right? Then it would tell you the name. And the reason why you want to do that, because sometimes in scripts, you want to insert something either through a script or something like that. For example, I can use another alert thing called prompt. And then I'm going to say type property here or something like that. And if I run this, it would just say type property here, and I can say, hey, age. I'm going to type age, and then it would take this age and insert it in here. And then if I type it, boom, it tells me 22. Anyway, so with that, I just wanted to show you, these are the 5 things, the 5 data types that you're going to be dealing with. And the rest is just, if-else statement, for loops, all of that jazz. That's what you're going to be dealing with. And if you want to learn more about, again, all of this, you can either take our course, ucramedia.com/expressions, or you can go online and just go nuts with the JavaScript sites. A good one is actually, I believe it's right here. It's this one, W3 Schools. You can learn more on your own, but obviously you just have to kind of learn how to do it within ExtendScript, so it will take some time. Okay, now let's go back over here. Now let's create something new. I just want to quickly go over this stuff, but I want to tell you about reflection objects. So, for example, we can find out what kind of properties we can apply to things or methods, right? For example, if I have this object, I'm going to say alert object, and we're going to call this up. I know, let's say I don't know these properties. I just know the name of the object. I want to know what kind of properties this object has. How can I find out, right? Well, I can easily do that. I can just say reflect properties. And when I run it, it'll tell me it has name, color, page. So then I'm like, oh, cool, it has name as one of them. So I'm going to say name, and then boom, it gives me the name, right? But then you can also find out what kind of actions, right? We determine our object, we determine our thing that we, remember JavaScript is object oriented. So now we want to do something with it. So I'm saying, hey, name is a string. It's a string, right? It's a text. So I want to know what kind of string methods it has, right? So you can use the same thing, reflection. Instead of properties, I'm going to type reflect. Instead of properties, we're going to say methods. And again, methods it's the same thing as actions, right? So when you run it, you can see all of these methods, right? For example, now we're pointing to the name. It's a name. Right here, I see something like 2 lowercase, 2 uppercase. So that's a method that I can use. And I'm going to get rid of this. So I'm like, okay, 2 uppercase. I'm going to, uppercase. And again, methods have parentheses like this. So when I run it, notice my name is all caps. If I say 2 lowercase, and you'll see them all lowercase. It doesn't matter how you type it in here, you can control it. Now, the website that I was telling you about, it has all of these things. You know what a string is now, you know what a number is, what an array is. Well, you can actually go to Learn JavaScript here, and you can kind of go over what methods strings have. Like strings have methods, you can kind of see all of them. Like right in here, you can kind of go over. But if you go all the way to the bottom, you can see a whole list of them. So now that you know what those data types are, right, you can actually see what kind of string methods you can apply, right? For example, the one we just used was called 2 uppercase, right here, 2 uppercase. You can click on it and you can read more about it. Like, hey, here's how you apply it. Here's how, and it'll give you some examples. So you can kind of, this is me telling you the basics, and you can go and, like, in other words, I don't need to learn all of that. I just need to know where to go to find out more. So you can find out what kind of methods strings have. Then you can find out what kind of methods like an array has. So let's see, what is an array here? Array. So these are the methods for arrays, and you can kind of go through all of them and kind of click and see what you can do with it. The same thing for other things, number. It has some methods, some properties, methods, toFixed, all of that stuff. You can find out on your own, and then go from there. So a lot of times when I code something, if I want to do something, I'm like, okay, what do I need to get there? And a lot of times I'll find the methods that I need to get there, and it's a lot of times it's determining the object and then telling it to do something, and then maybe doing some math. Okay, how are we doing so far? Value time, yep. Okay, so let's kind of, I'm not sure how we're doing on time. So we've been at it for 30 minutes. And I know I'm throwing a lot at you guys, but hang in there, because now we're going to do something practical. So let's do this. Let's write let's write a script to create a new composition. And within that composition, let's create a new text. And within that text, let's create like a set of position, maybe opacity animation, something like that. Let's see how we can make that happen. So this is where we talk about practical stuff. And this is where I introduce you to another great resource. And it's this one right here. So the link again to both of these are at the bottom of this video and the description. So docs.aeenhancers.com. It's a great resource. So in here, we kind of learn more about how After Effects or how ExtendScript works within After Effects, how to code it basically, how to do scripting in After Effects. And this thing is perfect illustration of how it looks in After Effects. So this is like the illustration of the hierarchy of things in After Effects, how After Effects works. So the first thing you see is application, right? We have system, files, all that stuff, but the one that we are interested in is application. Then we have settings or project, right? Project, it would be like the project window. And then we have items. Those are like composition, folders, images, all of that stuff. As you can see, it's comp items, footage, and folder items. And then within comp items, we have layers, properties. So that's like the hierarchy of things. So let me point, so we have app, project, items, right? That's how we get to compositions, right? And for example, let me create a new comp in here. I'm just going to create a new composition. Make sure you switch to After Effects, whatever version that you are in. And I'm going to call this name, I'm going to say, let's call, hey, one of you guys, Jamal. Let's do this one. Let me copy your whole username. All right, let's see. Okay, so that's the name. So I can access the name from here. Let me write an address. So the first thing I'm going to do alert because we want to pop it up, right? And in here, I'm going to say app, period. Now, there are scripts that help you to get the address to whatever property, or I call it address, but the path to the property. But I'm going to show you how to do it manually so you understand how it works. Okay, so first is app. Remember, it's app, then project, and items, right? So then I'm going to say in here, let's go back. All right, so we're going to app, period. Then we're going to go into project, period. And then we're going to go to item. And in here, we're going to call index. So item is actually a method. As you notice by these two parentheses, it's a method that calls up another object, right? In this case, it's looking for an index number, like of whatever we have in here. So this is like an array. Whatever you put in here, it's like an array. So we have only one thing, so we just want index number 1. Now, index for methods, it actually starts at 1. If you see square brackets, it starts at 0. So 1, okay, and then I'm going to say period name. So it's going to go all the way to this composition, and then we're going to select a property called name, right? And again, you can reflect methods or properties. You can find out what kind of properties it has, like this, right? And it lists you all the properties it has. But we want a property called name. So I already know that one. So I'm going to say name. So if I run this script, watch as it tells me the name of this composition. That's cool. Well, if I know the name, I can do something with it. So I'm going to say, okay, name, since you are, I'm going to tell you to be something else. So within, it's a text, right? It's a string. So we have to, when we assign something to a property or whatever, you want to make sure that the data types match. So we're dealing with a string, we're going to give it a string. So that's important that you do that. Okay, so we're going to replace it for this. All right, so I'm going to replace it for this, right? This name, Christian or Christian. I'm not sure how to say it properly. So now if I run this, watch this. Boom, it changed it. So as you can see, that's how we change something. So let me show you how we can use a resource to create something. In other words, let me show you how to not use my brain at all to create something, to kind of show you how I arrived there with the resources. Because the reason why, honestly, this is why I wanted to do it live, so you can see my struggles, you can see how I work. Because a lot of times you kind of see the polished stuff, but I want you to see how I arrived there. All right, so let me get rid of all of this. And let's do this. We're going to go to this great resource, right? So in here, we're going to create a new composition. So you can see items. You know what items are. It has to do with composition, comp items, folders. So that's the documentations for those. Then you know what layers are. You can see what you can do with those. You know what properties are and render queue and all these other things. So I'm going to show you how you can work this to create your first script. All right, so we need to create a new composition. So I'm going to go over here. I know that composition is an item. Okay, so I'm like, okay, it's got to be in here somewhere. Okay, item collection object. So that's what I want. And remember, even in here, so they have methods. You know what methods are. It's just action, right? So I'm going to click on a method, and in here we have a method called add comp. I'm going to click on it, and in here we have basically, they give you an example of how it should look. It's that simple. And then on top of that, for each thing, they help you out in here and they describe it to you. This is how amazing this site is, right? So then I would copy this, right? Select it, copy it, and I'm going to go to ExtendScript, and I'm just going to paste it in here. Okay, and let me kind of scale it down. All right, so the first thing that it's asking me, let me zoom out a bit more. So app project items, right? Basically, we got to the root of items, you know, and then we're using a method. Remember, parentheses. Looks familiar? It's a method. We're gonna tell it to add a comp, create a new comp, right? And in here, it kind of tells us what we need to replace. So if you run it like this, nothing will happen because you need to come up with a name. Remember, name is a string, is a text, so you have to treat it like a text. So I'm gonna say, let's get somebody else's name in here. NT Productions. And by the way, down at the bottom in the description area, I placed like only one YouTube channel for resources, and it's NT Productions. You'll see it at the bottom of this video in the descriptions. And this guy is a whiz, and I'm honored that he's on here. So Nate is his name. He's super awesome. If you're watching this right now and you want to learn more, because that dude is like way out there. So I highly recommend that you subscribe to his channel. I mean, highly recommend. And I've been talking to him. We're friends, Nate, right? And he's a great guy, and you're gonna love his tutorials. Definitely check him out. So add comp, we're gonna come up with the name, and I'm gonna put NT Productions in here. So NT Productions, and then width, we're gonna say something like 1920 by 1080. So it's a text, right? Pixel aspect, we're gonna say 1. Duration, how long do you want it to be? It's usually in seconds, so I'm going to say 10 seconds. Frame rate, 29.97. So after you did all of that, then you can run it. You can say run. And then as you can see, NT Productions, new composition, right? If we go into here, you can see 1920 by 1080. We have the frame rate, 10 seconds right here. So that's how easy it is to create it. Okay, and I'm actually going to give it, I'm going to do this. I'm going to say variable. You're going to be new comp. So I'm going to tell it to be new comp. Okay. So now that we know how to create a new comp, how do we create a new text layer? How do we create that? So let's keep going. I'm going to say variable, new. Let's do this. So we have composition. Let's do new text layer, or new layer. It doesn't need to be text, but it's going to be text. Variables are just made up English, doesn't mean anything until you assign something. So I'm going to say equals, you're going to equal to, and then we're going to pick up where we left off. We're going to say, all right, since we already created a new composition, then we're going to say, all right, let's go back to the cheat sheet. Let's go back to the resource here, and let's see how we can use it, how we can utilize it. So now that we moved away from items, we've determined, you know, we create a new composition. Let's go to layers, but we're dealing with layers. How can we use this awesome resource? So layer collection object in here. And in here, we have methods, actions, right? And let's see, add text. Awesome, that's exactly what I need here. So in here, we already have it for us, right? App project, since we already created item, we're gonna pick it up from here, right? We don't need to undo all of that. I mean, you can if you want to, but. All right, so in here, I'm just gonna say, boom, make sure you get rid of double period here. So layers, add text, and right here it's asking for source text. So we're going to say, hey, it's going to be a string. Oh, let me undo this. It's going to be a string, so we need to treat it as a string. So we're going to say layer, the text is going to be, and let's come up with somebody else. Dwayne, let's do Dwayne Walters. We're going to put him in here. All right, that's going to be that, and let's see what happens. Let's run this. So we have NT Productions, we have a new text, and there you have it. All right, well then let's do this. I want to play with position. Like I want for this text to be positioned about here. Let's say like 150 and 1000, so I can remember it. Something like that. Okay, so then I would say, let's do this. new layer. We already have that one declared, so that's going to be, I'm just going to pick it up from there. I'm going to say new layer. Let's do this. So we're going to go into position. Okay, and then for position value, I'm going to set value, and I'll tell it to be, well, it's not a string. It's going to be, this time it's an array, remember. So you have to speak the same data type, right? If it's an array, you have to speak the same. In other words, I have to have a value that's two-dimensional. So square brackets, and in here I'm going to say, what was it again? 150 and 1000. Okay, so let's see what happens. So let's get rid of all of this jazz, and let's run it. So let's run this, boom, and if you hit position, there you go. So that's how we did that. Okay. That sounds cool. Let's add an expression to it. So we're going to say new, we can copy basically this, paste it, and instead of set value, so set value if you want to set like a value for a property, right? But we're going to say expression, and then we're going to tell it to be, expression is text, right? So we want to treat it as text. We're going to say wiggle, and we're going to say something like 2, maybe 50. All right. Let's see what happens. And again, this is live, so it might break. All right, so we have this. Let's run it. Oh, no, wrong one. This one. So it created a new composition, and then if you preview this, it is wiggling. So let's go to position. You can see expression has been applied, so it's working. Next, let's fade that in. So we need to set the opacity, right? Okay, so we're gonna have to create a keyframe. So how do we do that? Let's go back to the cheat sheet. So let's go back to an amazing resource we have here. And in here, we're going to go to properties, and let's see what they have here. So methods, let's see. We need something to add a keyframe. So, oh, there you go. Add key. So that's probably good. Let's copy this. And in here, let's go back to ExtendScript. So in here, we're going to paste this right now, and then instead of position, so we're gonna go to the beginning of here. We're gonna say new layer. We want opacity, right? And we want to set a key at time. So time is a number. So we're gonna set a keyframe at 0 second mark. So 0, okay. And then we want to duplicate that again because we want another keyframe set at 1 second mark. Okay. So now if I run this, boom, it created this. Okay. Let's see. So let's press T to reveal the opacity. As you can see, we have our keys. However, they're not really, they're just created, but they're not really doing anything. So we need to set some values for them. So how do we add values to them? All right, let's keep going. So let's go back to our cheat sheet. So again, this is just me doing it live. And let's see. So what do we have here to set value? Maybe like set key. Let's go over here somewhere. It's got to be in here somewhere. So set value at key. That looks like it might be it. Let's copy this, and let's go back to here, and we're going to paste that in here. And then for opacity, so we're going to do this. We're going to copy opacity, just that path, and then we're going to say set value at key, and which key do we want? And remember, with the effects or methods, index starts with 1. So it's 1. So the first key would be 1. Okay, and we want the value to be 0 because the first keyframe we want to be 0, right? And then, by the way, semicolon is just our way of telling JavaScript, you know, that's a period in code language. Or so we're done with this statement, go to the next one. So I'm going to copy this and then paste it. And we want key number 2, a keyframe, the second keyframe, right? And for that one, we want it to be 100. All right, so let's run this. Let's see what happens. And really, I hope you're catching on here. It's kind of similar to, right, like doing actions in Photoshop. It's just us going through steps, and that's how it happens. You know, nothing crazy. It's just understanding the basics and knowing how to apply it, and knowing the tools, like the amazing website I just showed you. So let's run this. So created that one. Okay, so now let's see, play this. Yeah, it's working. As you can see, first key is set at 0. Second one is 100. And boom, and it's wiggling. So position property is working. And yeah, it's awesome. But here's the thing. You're like, all right, this is great. Like, why do I need this? Like, I can just do it. Well, I mean, obviously you can run it multiple times and create a bunch of different, but you can actually take this and convert it into what we call function. It might be not a proper way of saying this, but for us motion designers, it's kind of like pre-comping. It's grouping an action and then you trigger it later, right? So for example, you just type function and then you name the function. So we can name it, let's name it something like, let's see who we haven't used here. This person. I'm just copying somebody from the chat. All right, Fiona. And in here, we're just going to say, all right, Fiona is going to be a new action or a new function. And then anything starting with this code block. And by the way, code block is just us grouping everything into one value, right? And so starting from code block or curly brackets left one and all the way to the right one. So we're closing it. So we're basically saying, Fiona, you're going to be everything between these two. In fact, I'm going to select this, press tab to kind of indent that for a second so you can kind of visually see better what's going on. So now if I run this code, nothing will happen. Watch this. Because now we have to trigger it. Before it was just running it. Now we have to say, all right, we want to run this Fiona. So boom. And now when I run it, it creates it. But the cool thing about this, let me undo this. The cool thing about this, now you can create variables for Fiona. For example, I can create a variable for comp name. So I can say comp name, it's a totally made up variable, doesn't mean anything. And then instead of having NT Productions, which is a great website, you just replace it for a variable. So now when you run Fiona, you can just create, because it assumes the first key, right, or the first variable, it would be the name of your composition. Then you can say something like, let's see, this person, whose name I cannot pronounce, but so when I type this will be, it will basically put it, it's the same thing as comp name, and it will replace it. It will basically put this in there. I hope that's making sense. So now when I run it, there you go, create a composition named Felix. I'm sure I'm butchering this name, and then the rest works well, right? Let's see, we can keep going with this. So then we can say, instead of comp name, we'll have comp name. Let's do also text, or let's do, is it text new? Okay, we'll do layer name. Okay, and instead of Dwayne, so add text. Actually, we didn't do that. So let's do this. We also need to do this. We're going to say new layer dot name. We want it to be that layer name. Okay, so let's see what happens. We'll just call it layer name. So I'm talking about this right here. Right now it says Dwayne, but it should say layer name, but it will still have Dwayne. So layer name. All right, let's see if this works. The beautiful thing about doing stuff live, you get to see my flaws. All right, here we go. Nope, it didn't work. So what did I do wrong here? New layer. I misspelled layer. Dang it. All right, let's try this again. Yeah, it's working now. So let me get rid of all this. So watch this. Boom. And as you can see, layer name. That's what we did here. Name. Okay. So let's keep going here. Let's do title. We'll say title. Okay, it's a new title. And instead of it being Dwayne, we're just going to replace him for title. Okay, so we have comp name, layer name, and then title. And here I can say something like ukramedia.com/expressions. I know it's a plug. And now if I get rid of this, these lights are hot. Do you feel this, Vlad? Whoa, the heat. All right, here we go. And let's see. So now we have layer name and ukramedia.com/expressions. So I hope, again, you see the importance of functions, how awesome they are. You can create different things and call them up at any time. I got to get some water, man. These lights are hot. Whoa. Okay. So, again, you might be wondering, that's great and all, but how can this be useful? Well, before we go any further, let me do this. I do have a list. I covered most of the stuff, but let me keep going here. So if I run this, watch this. If I press Control Z and undo it, watch what happens. It goes through every stage, and that's not practical. So to avoid that, we use a thing called begin, undo, group. And again, you can label this group. You can label something like code, doesn't really matter. And then you want to tell it where you want it. When you press Control Z, you kind of basically say app end, right? Undo group. Let's see if this works. It looks like it looks right, but let's see if it works. So now if I run the script, okay, I didn't do something right. So let's go back to my source. All right, so what I do here, if I can't remember something, I just do undo group and searching, and there you go. Make sure I typed it right. So where the heck is Control undo? There you go. So begin, undo group. I'm not sure why I didn't type right. I'll just copy it, go back over here. Oh, I guess, yeah, sorry. And then you would label it code. I guess you don't need to put period. I don't know why I put period. All right, so let's run this again. Let's see what happens. All right, so it worked. So now watch this. If I press Control Z, it goes back to where it was. So it's a definitely good thing to know, especially if you wrote like a long text and or long code and you ran it. It's like thousands of steps. Can you imagine undoing everything? Yeah, that can take you forever. Okay, so what else can I go over? And I don't know if we have time. What do we look at? Okay, we have time. Let's talk about for loops. But before I do that, let me see how you guys are doing. Came in late. Just wanted to shout out. Okay, how is everybody doing? Okay. Well, man, this is so awesome. NT Productions, which is Nate, a good dude. He's actually on here answering questions. So, Nate, man, thanks for being here, man. By the way, again, if you are not subscribed to NT Productions, you are missing out. I don't know how many times I've used his tutorials to create even the scripts that I work on. You know, a lot of times you hit some stuff and you're like, crap, how do you do this? And then someone like NT Productions come around and you get to, learn some stuff from him and you get to plug it into your own script, and it's awesome. I've been using his binary, converting images to binary code. I use it still today, NT Productions, man. Thanks so much for that script. I run it all the time. I convert my images into a code, and then I get to use it in my scripts, which is awesome. Okay, let me take some water here. We're going to cover one more thing. It's basically for loops. I'm going to talk about that really quick. All right, let's keep going here. So for loops, basically for loops, I mean, in my own English words, I would say it's just a way we loop things. We make things run multiple times, right? And the way it works like this, you just say for, and then you define condition, and then you say, well, let's do open curly brackets, and we close it, right? Anything we type, basically it's going to run whatever's between the curly brackets, right? And in our case, oops, it would be this, but what the heck? You can't do that with one line. Okay, so in here, here's what I'm going to do. So let's do this. I'm going to create a variable called, again, just create a variable, just put var, and then we're going to say something like comp names. Okay, I'm totally making stuff up right now. So I'm going to tell it to be an array. And I'll list some names in here. So we're going to do, let's do like 3 names. So 3 names. And let me copy some of you guys. Ricardo, welcome, man. Let me copy your name and put it in here. Let's do 2 more. We used a lot of you here, so I'm not sure how to say this name, but that's who I'm copying. And 1 more. A lot of you have long names like me. All right, so we have these 3 names. Okay, so in here for loops, we're gonna say I, which is just a variable, made up variable. It can be anything, but a lot of people go with I. We're gonna tell it to be 0 at the beginning, so it's gonna start with the value 0, and then we're gonna say we're gonna define condition, just like an if-else statement. We're gonna say run this code as long as I is less than. We're gonna say comp names.length, which .length is a property of how many names we have in here, right? It's going to give me 3, so that's good. Well, So I'm going to say, as long as we have 3 names, run it 3 times, right? And then I can say I++, which is increase incrementally. So just go 1, 2, 3, 4. It's the same thing. It's saying I plus equals 1, right? It's the same thing. Or if you want to skip 2 or whatever, it's the same thing, but it's just plus plus. It's increase incrementally, basically, by 1. And now, instead of this name here, I'm going to do this. I'm going to say comp names. And remember, square brackets, that's how we access which one we want, right? We want 0. But instead of which one we want, I'm going to say I. And what I is, in the first loop, will be 0. In the second loop, it'll be 1. And this, it'll do like 3 loops, right? Because we have 3 names. So it will access with each loop, it'll create a comp with this one, the next one, the next one. At least that's my thinking. Let's see if it actually does that. So nothing is in here. Let's run the script. Let's see what happens. Yeah, thank God it worked. As you can see, created 1, 2, 3 compositions and different names, but they have the same content, the same stuff, which is great. Okay, so then we can create another one. We can say variable comp, well, let's do layer names. And for this one, or yeah, let's do layer names. For this one, we can do just something quick. I'll just say, let's do 1, 2, 3. And I'll just say A, B, C. And the same concept here. We would just say, instead of names, we're going to say layer names, and then square brackets, we're going to say I, which is a number that changes with each loop. At first it's 0 because we set it to 0. Then it's going to increase it by 1, right? This incremental increase. So then it's going to be 2, 3, and it will access each one. So I hope I'm making sense. But anyway, let me undo that. It should work now. Yeah, undo. Remember, we set this up to where it will go completely to where you started. So now when we run this, each one will have a layer C, right? B, A. So it's working well. All right. Then here we can do the same thing for text, but you get the idea. But let me do this again, just so you know what I'm talking about. So we'll do title. And in here, we're going to say, let's do the same concept. It's so hard to type when this thing is blocking my keyboard. All right. So we're going to say something like, let's copy some of your names again. Christian, or Christian, I think maybe. Dwayne. It's so good that I have these names to work with here. That's great. And Jamal. Okay. So now, if I run this, well, I want to make sure that I copy this, replace it for that. And again, we access an array by doing square brackets, and we're going to type I. So if I run this, as you can see, we have Jamal, Dwayne, and Christian. Anyway, that is basically it. I mean, if you're done with this, you can go File and save it as, and you can save it as, let's go to, well, desktop. I'm just going to save it to desktop. We can just say test. Just name it whatever, and then you can just go to File and Scripts, and you can say Run Script File, and you just point to that file, and that's how you run it. So what is it? It took me like an hour, and has it been? Yeah, it's like about an hour to explain all of this, and I'm sure to a lot of you it's a lot of information if you're not used to this, but it's really not that difficult. It's really just understanding different data types, how it's structured, and how to use amazing resources like this website and that website. You can find out what kind of actions you can apply, right? But if it's a string, okay, you're like, all right, if it's a text, what kind of methods, actions I can use, and then you could do that. So these 2 resources, highly recommend you. I mean, you've seen me how I used it. You can see how valuable they are, and yeah, that is it. And I think I'm gonna call it quits right now. But how are you guys doing? How was it? Did you get it? Or I'm sure maybe some of you will have to kind of watch it again, which again you will be able to watch it again. We'll make it available for at least 24 hours so you can watch this again. And if you want to learn more about expressions, I highly recommend that you take our course at ucramedia.com/expressions. And for coming into this live broadcast, you automatically get to use a $10 promo code live. And let me do this. So let me show you this promo code. As you can see, promo code live. You can use it, $10. I mean, you don't even have to purchase anything. You can just go to ucrmedia.com/shop. And we do have Control It, which is a script that I wrote, learning scripting. And you can download it for free. It's $9. So it's just a gift for us to you, to give to you for coming in like late at night or 7 o'clock or whatever it is, wherever you are. So thank you for being here. We reward loyalty. And Vlad, do we have that promo code? Okay. What's the code? Oh, okay. So the promo code, it's only available to 10 people. If you want to learn expressions, you can get it for 50% off if you type Ucramedia. And it's only available to 10 people. You can learn how to create module lower third. I mean, check it out. You definitely should check out how to do that stuff. Basically, it's a lot of the stuff that I kind of went over with like the JavaScript, but it's basically showing you how to do that in After Effects, how to create a module lower third to where everything adjusts and all of that stuff. We have like 13 hours of content. You should definitely check it out. And thank you guys for supporting us. And something else, Ucramedia is the promo code, UKRA Media. Only 10 people. So 10 people. After that, it expires. So you can only use it 10 times. I will watch it again, Ricardo. Awesome. You can use var and let. Can you do it in the? You can use it var let in the new expression engine. I'm not sure if ExtendScript is up to date, and you can correct me, NT Productions. I'm just stuck with var, but I'll have to go over like what a let is and constant and all these different ways of setting variables. Yeah, Christian, create a complete course on scripting along with NT Productions. You know, I've been talking to Nate, and I'm like, Nate, we got to team up to do something. So if Nate is cool with it, I'd love to do something like that. Just for the fact that I can learn more from Nate. Nate is like a heavyweight. He's like a whiz. You should check out his Nate. Can you put up the link to? I don't know if you can do that on YouTube, but he's got like all these awesome scripts that he created. You should definitely check out. Very, very helpful. Thanks. So yeah, let me know. What's the feedback? Have you guys, was this helpful to you? Did it shine some light on how to create stuff and, you know, how to write your first script? And I haven't even gone over like the UI side of things and all that stuff, which is a whole different ball game. But this right here, just if you have to create 20 comps or something like that, you can quickly do that. Like just writing a code and you can boom, create it. It will save you time. Or if you have to send them to render queue, you can do it like this and just, again, using the same resources I shared with you. So knowing that skill will speed up your workflow, and it's not as scary. If a guy who barely passed high school can do it and speaks English, what is it, my fourth language, then you can do it as well. So this should inspire you for sure. Newbie to scripting like me. Okay, Victor, did you watch the whole thing from the beginning? I'm curious to see if you were able to catch something. But yeah, I'm not, again, I've only been doing scripting for 2 years, but I understand the foundation, the fundamentals of JavaScript, which is the core of everything. If you understand how JavaScript works, it's just a matter of learning how that looks in After Effects. But JavaScript, again, it's object-oriented language. It's objects, properties, and methods. You know, first it's an object, then it's a method, and, you know, different data types. There are 5 of them. And we talked about that. And you should definitely rewatch. It was helpful to me. I know coding part for WordPress, but scripting, okay. Awesome. Dwayne, I'm glad it's, yes. Okay, great. Okay. All right, guys, once again, if you want to purchase our expressions course, it's 50% off for the next 24 or next 10 people. 10 people. And it's Ucramedia promo code, 50% off. If you want to learn more, go for it. And by the way, I am wearing Action VFX t-shirt, which is an amazing group of people, Action VFX. They actually are located in Johnson City, where I went to school. And they're awesome. We're friends with them. This is not a paid thing. This is just me giving them a shout out. They're just amazing people. So Action VFX, you guys are awesome. I don't know if you're on here. And by the way, we do have a mentoring group on Facebook that you should definitely join. You see the links at the bottom of this video. I'm not sure if it's there. Ukramedia.com/community. You should definitely join our community. A lot of you guys are. That's where a lot of heavyweights. I'm not sure if NT Productions is on it. Nate, are you on it? If you're not, you should definitely be on it. But we have people like Nate who are, eager to teach people, and they enjoy it. And just like me, I enjoy teaching. It's a lot of fun for me. And there you can go get teach somebody else or be mentored, or it's an amazing place. You should definitely check it out. You're missing out if you're not. You're the average of 5 people that you hang out with, and if you're not hanging out with people like NT Productions, then you're missing out. Let's see what we have here. Yeah, Gray was doing. Oh. So hopefully you'll understand it next time. Fernand. Hold on one second. It's hard to see. It's so far away. Is it Fermanda? I hope I'm pronouncing it right. There you go. Now it's zoomed in. Awesome. Victor. Again, Victor, thank you for being here. NT Productions. Dwayne. Fernanda. Oh, I thought it was M because R and N were kind of close together. Dwayne. Fadley. Felix. Thank you guys. Christian from, I believe you're in Brazil. Right. That's one country I haven't been to, one of many, but I'd love to go there one day. Kenneth. Thank you for being here. Ricardo, Fiona, Joman. Not sure if I'm pronouncing it correctly. And yeah, all of you guys, thank you for the comments. Thank you for all the love and all the support. Again, if you want to, 2 promo codes. Live, if you want to get $10 and purchase something, or even if you want to get a free script for $9, which will cover it, just promo code live. And if you want to get a 50% off first 10 people, what was the Ukramedia promo code? There you go. All right, guys. Again, thank you so much for being here. I know it's kind of late. A lot of you are coming in from work, but thank you for being here. We appreciate you. But until next time, my name is Sergei Praknevsky, and this is Ukramedia.com.